Good afternoon. It's a beautiful Thursday in San Francisco. If you're going to be here for all 4 sessions today, I really hope you like what I'm about to say because you're going to hear it 4 times. So, sorry, not sorry. I'm Trent. I run marketing at Harvest, and I want to give a big shout out to the year 1986, from which you were hearing music exclusively as you walked in. That was the last year that we were at 350 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere, which was the last time it was safe to breathe and be outside. I don't have to tell you guys that, guys and gals. And a big shout out also to the native Ohlone peoples who have been here for thousands of years more than people who look like me were. So why Gigaton Salon? I'm going to treat you like the crowd that you are, which is a crowd that knows that we spew out 56 gigatons of CO2 and equivalents every year. And we have 68 months, I just did the math today, to get down to 0. And we're doing a pretty terrible job so far of doing that. We're a very easily distracted species, it turns out. So we're here to focus. Gigaton Salon is all about focusing on the gigatons. Make no small plans is something that I like to say and hear said about the climate crisis. We're here also to have fun, because most of us, I think all of us here, are climate nerds, and as a species, we are really terrible at talking to people who aren't climate nerds. We have to get better at that, because if we don't, then we're all screwed, including those who don't care. So we're here to have fun. People don't like to hear about sad, bad, unhappy things. It's something that some of us forget a lot of the time. So if we don't have fun, they're not going to listen to us. So let's have fun. Let's focus on the gigatons. We owe it to ourselves and to everybody else. And speaking of fun, what's more fun than a British woman who curses more than I do? This is Zoe Samuel of Starshot Capital, one of our co-hosts today. Hi, Zoe.
Just going to unsquiddle the rug.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Thank you.
It's a trip hazard. Used to be in showbiz, so I'm the person who's usually behind the person who's behind the camera. So this is a very strange moment for me. I had to break out the dry clean only stuff.
You're doing great.
Thank you. So this is an exceptionally young and attractive crowd, which means that the climate crisis will be, the climate fight will be won or lost over the careers of the people in this room. We have what happens in the next 10 to 15 years, and especially, and ultimately the next 30 will decide whether we leave a world to our children that we, that is as abundant and as prosperous and as wonderful as the one that we inherited. And so that means that we do have no time to waste, but it's certainly not a waste of time to thank our co-hosts and sponsors. So I want to say a big thank you to Impulse Labs, whose beautiful office is this. Big hand for Impulse. And I want to say a big thank you to the Abundance Institute, who are co-hosting and sponsoring today. Are you in? I believe they're in the green room, but don't worry, they are abundant. There are several of them here. I want to say thank you to Systemic Capital, who I know I saw here, but I'm not picking you out of the crowd. We're up against this evil hockey stick. We're all familiar with this terrible graph. But, before 2020, we hadn't sort of hit the steep bit of the graph when it came to climate solutions and the technology and seeing the pivot of public opinion and the pivot of awareness. Every time somebody's holiday to Sicily is ruined by 110 Fahrenheit heat wave, that person becomes a climiteer. He's also my brother in that particular case. He calls me up, he goes, it's 47 Celsius, and you were right. But the good hockey stick is now catching up. And I like to say any of us that were doing climate before 2020, we were the people who were cooling the planet before it was cool. You're all the people who are here to keep it cool. So you all give me hope. And with that, Trent is going to introduce some of the people who are the best cause for hope with our first speakers. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Zoe. So who here knows what load shifting is? Oh my God, and who really, thank you, yes, who really cares about load shifting? Okay, well, we're a biased crowd today, but today we are going to give you, and those who might look at this content in the future, if you know what I mean, the best possible sales pitch that has ever existed on this pale blue dot for caring about load shifting. I am very happy to welcome to the stage Sam D'Amico, Chief Stove Officer at Impulse, whose office we are in right now. My boss, another fun and very focused British woman, Jane Melia, Harvester-in-Chief. And SF Climate Week's most unintimidating celebrity, former SF Giants right fielder and founder of the Healthy Planet Project, Hunter Pence. Let's go.
Thank you, Trent. That was amazing. This is exciting. I'm not sure exactly where I'm sitting. I'm gonna sit next to you.
You can crowd in. It's allowed.
All right. Well, this is really exciting to get to kick this off, and Climate Week has been amazing. And now we're jumping into clean energy and the amazing things that we have, the solutions that we have. You know, everyone talks about, you know, this is Climate Week, and what are the solutions? And we have two people that are doing amazing things. So first and foremost, Jane, I am very excited to learn about what is the duck curve and why should we care about it?
Great question. Thank you, Hunter. And first of all, it's lovely to see everybody, a lot of faces I know in the audience. And thanks, Sam, for hosting us here. It's a great venue. Now, the duck curve. Ducks are getting a really bad rap, and it's totally unfair. But it's all about how we're using energy. Now, I hate getting electricity bills like anybody else, but we've got to say it's kind of tough managing the electric grid. This is a day in the life of a grid operator between midnight and midnight. And you've got high costs of generating electricity in the morning and the evening, and high emissions in the morning and the evening. You've got lots and lots of lovely, clean, cheap solar in the middle of the day. You've got this mismatch, and that shape looks apparently like the belly of a duck. Cue the duck. The challenge is what's happening is we've got a mismatch. We need to use electricity and energy in the night and in the morning, and it's a mismatch with when we have solar electricity. It actually even gets worse, because we're asking more and more of the energy grid. For example, 2/3 of the energy used in our homes is for heating and hot water. That's mostly from burning methane in our furnaces and water heaters. And we have to stop doing that. I mean, we can't beat climate change if we keep using methane in our furnaces. So what's going to happen? Well, the challenge is we all need to heat our homes at the same time. You can't say, sorry kids, we're not going to put the heating on till lunchtime, right? You have to heat in the morning and at night. That adds load to the grid and really makes the duck curve worse. And there are other things, like when do we cook? We often cook in the evenings. Same thing, same problem, and this is something that Sam can really solve. In fact, this is what this panel is all about, right? It's all about the optimism. You know, 15 years ago, people would have said, we don't have the technologies to beat climate change. We do. And this particular problem, Sam and my team, we can really fix it for everybody.
That's really well said, and the duck curve was really mind-boggling to me, because you're like, yeah, this is when we need to use our energy, and realizing first that there's a problem, but then the fact that you'll have such amazing solutions. And Sam, let's jump to kind of what you're doing at Impulse, the amazing stove that you've built. Why did you start Impulse, and what do you got cooking over there?
Yeah, it's funny. So I came to this to be fully dox myself. I came to this not as a climate solution first, but as I think originally it was I wanted to cook pizza really fast. And the idea was kind of like, if you could improve like common home appliances in a way that was like novel, because like all the improvements that were happening back in the mid 2010s were like smart features and stuff like that. Like, oh, it'll tell you exactly how to make the rotisserie chicken perfect or what have you. But that was before all this AI boom too. But then none of the features were actually like the stove is better, the oven is better, the appliance is fundamentally better. And what I came to realize was if you put a battery in the appliance, you could augment the performance for the first time and really raise the bar on what you could accomplish with the device in a way where you, in some sense, jumped from like the existing categories of electric appliances, including induction stoves, to a new category that was like newly possible with this technology. The big point was this was actually the first time you could really improve on features, and like the best way to think about this was like the auto industry had addressed the same thing maybe about a decade ago, where once the Tesla Model S came out, it's like getting 100% on car and driver. Like you could build the best car, and so that's what we realized, and what kind of made us start Impulse was you could build the best stove, and then you could use that as a wedge to now deploy the same battery that made it the best stove across the grid, connect that battery to the grid in an interactive way, and then you may have just deployed the world's biggest distributed battery at the same time. And then you could actually solve some of these exact problems at the grid scale. And it all starts from convincing people that they need to upgrade their stove to this new awesome type of stove.
That's really amazing. And so are you able to make really cool pizzas now?
So we're going to do an oven next. We're doing a cooktop first.
Okay.
And I do want to make sure that the pizza mode exists in that oven. I think that's
We'll
very
get there.
good. That's a very good idea. One of we're very proud about some of the capabilities we're able to unlock with the product, like both like you can boil water way faster than any other product you ever do, and we're going to do some demos of that later. But also you can hold consistent temperature for the first time on a full-size stove, and that enabling kind of like the next generation of like cooking performance for both professional chefs and unfortunate amateurs, as much as I get mocked on Twitter for my cooking, as myself. So it's like basically trying to make sure that we actually can make the categorical jump to a new class of appliance, both on the energy side and on the capability side.
Yeah, and it is pretty impressive. You're going to want to see that, how fast he can boil water. And it's going to be interesting also to hear about how these batteries work. This was, for me, as like new to the energy world, really mind-blowing. And so, Jane, I want to jump back to Harvest. And what's your, why you started Harvest, and tell us a little bit about your heating and cooling system and how it kind of solves and stores the energy.
Great, and I can't wait to get that stove. Put me first on the list, please. Thank you. All right, so what was mind-boggling to me was to realize that just two things, heating and hot water for our homes, represents 10% of overall climate emissions. I mean, that was mind-boggling. Most people don't know that. And Harvest fixes that. I mean, Harvest system avoids over the life of the system about 55 tons of CO2. That's a bigger saving than you get from switching out your old gasoline car and getting an electric vehicle. So the impact is huge. And we do that while saving bills. I mean, it's really important to save money, so we're saving bills month over month by 30% for every home with a very compelling upfront cost. And to your point, people want to be cozy warm. Our customers love the system. Nice and warm, all the hot water they need, and really nice home experience. But let's get back to the duck story. So what Harvest does is figuring out how do we beat this duck, and how do we make home electrification really scalable. And what we're doing is we're saying we're operating the heat pump in the middle of the day when electricity is clean, cheap, and abundant, and when that heat pump's going to be most efficient. And that's when we're going to run it. And then we're going to store that in a thermal battery. And we can talk a bit more about batteries in a few minutes. It's essentially a hot water tank, right? Carefully managing its state of charge. We store that in that battery, and then we can deliver it to your home as heating, as hot water, just whenever you need it. So what does that do? It gives you really comfortable home experience. It saves you money because it's more efficient, because you can use electricity at the cheapest rates. It helps the grid get cleaner, and it really solves the duck curve. Look. One of my customers, Lana in Oakland, put it really well. Harvest, you're an upside-down duck. And really, that's how we beat the duck curve, right? The technology exists, and really it's all about bringing it up to scale. And that's the thing right now. As I was saying earlier, these technologies can solve the problem. We can get methane out of our homes, and we can do it without hurting the grid. And we can do it while giving people an awesome experience and while saving them money. And the question now is getting the word out. And that's why I'm really happy that we have folks like Hunter who've got a real podium that people are going to listen to and really to share the news of what's possible so that we can escalate this. So it's a question about let's get this into as many homes as possible as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful, Jane, and we're thankful for the experts and the people that have been doing this work, because you hear kind of the weight of what's going on, and we have this duck curve, and the fact that you've solved it through this battery, which is, it's a lot to take in right at first, but the things that I think I want to highlight that you just kind of mentioned quickly, that as I researched all of this, is 10% of the emissions is from our heating and cooling systems, and that's more than the cars. We talk about electric cars are doing a great job, and we're starting to reduce the air pollution, but just by changing the installation in your home, you're going to A, save money, you're going to B, help balance out the planet, and a real problem that's going to face us if we don't make these changes. So thank you so much for that work. And I guess I'll jump back to you, Sam, in a second, but I want to finish up with just talk a little bit more about the battery and how your batteries works exactly.
My favorite question. So batteries, right? When we think of batteries, we think of the little coin-sized ones. We think of the little ones we put in our laptops and so on, and we also think of lithium-ion batteries. What we're talking about in our case is thermal batteries, and there's a place for different types of batteries. For thermal loads, a thermal battery is the way to go. And that's essentially use a sink of heat, in our case hot water, store it up for later use. And why? Because we're using the tank that you need anyway as your battery. Why? Because it's cheap. Why? Because it's safe. Because it's durable. It never degrades over time. And it doesn't use any rare earth minerals. So that's how you scale the thermal side of the pie. Your heating, your hot water, and ultimately your cooling. And lithium-ion batteries are really what you need for your electric load. Think your stove. Think your dishwasher, think your dryer, and so on. And so they're very complementary, and there's going to be different uses for each. But certainly, if you're thinking about changing out your heating, put in a battery, but make it a thermal battery.
Beautiful. Well, and that's just amazing. And then Sam, I got to see a little bit of your battery in action and the power that you were able to bring from a lot less. Can you talk a little bit about the battery with the Impulse stove?
Yeah, so basically we came to this from like almost power constraints. So basically if you want to run a stove, period, like an induction stove, it uses about the same amount of power as what's called like an L2 EV charger, so like a fast charger for a Tesla or something like that. And this is actually pretty ridiculous because you only need that power for very limited bursts of time. That's actually kind of one of the companies named Impulse. And so when you look at that, you're like, okay, I'm cooking. On average, when you're cooking, you're using about as much power as like a hairdryer, not an EV charger, so like 1,500 watts, not like, I don't know, 10,000 watts or something like that. But you really do care about the user experience when it comes to like, you can heat stuff up super quick, you can like hold temperature reliably, even if you like put something on there that's heavy, that's like a lot of water or something like has a lot of water content or something like that. So you end up really wanting these bursts of power, despite the fact that the average draw is not super crazy. Enter a battery. And so if you size the battery for power delivery so that it can basically deliver those bursts of power, you've solved this problem. And then you've also enabled a bunch of new features, like it runs when the power's out, which is kind of one of the other reasons people are just like, hey, I want to get rid of I can't get rid of my gas stove because like, what if the power goes out? I want to be able to boil water, cook dinner, et cetera. It's like, well, we can still do that. And so that's kind of like the initial user-facing thing. But then what happens is, once you have the battery, well, could you crank the power up more? And the answer is yes. And so all of these like home appliances have been scoped around what is reasonable to deliver in the existing wiring in your house, not what you could deliver if you had a clean sheet. And so we basically took the clean sheet, now that we've like got all these new assumptions in place, kind of re-rolled the dice and built the best appliance we possibly could build.
Amazing. And I guess I just want to know, like, for instance, if you want to install one of these stoves and you're looking to purchase one, like how do they go about doing that? Is it complicated for the consumer? And what does this, do you think, I thought it was really cool how your knobs and stuff, you can remove them, they're magnetized, like everything just feels really kind of like wow factor if you're like having a house guest or something. But how does it help kind of homeowners in general, and how do they install?
Yeah, so I think a key thing that we came to this from was like install is not a feature once you've got the product. And also you don't necessarily, like we're all on this various stages of this journey of knowing and being experts at this stuff. So we're like immersed in these problems, but it's very clear that like you only find out about the install problem when you're like, hey, I heard gas stoves are bad for my health. I want to get an induction stove. And then your general contractor tells you when you're mid-kitchen remodel that like, you only have 100 amps of capacity on your panel and your new stovetop or range you want to get is like 60, and you're like, that doesn't work. And so what'll end up happening is we realize that you have to make sure that you get people on the like, there's a bunch of product features that mean this is an N of one product that you will definitely want to get. But then as soon as you get it at your doorstep, there needs to be no veto points. And the veto points are mostly around the install, around like what are the other dependencies you might need to put this thing in your house, and a lot of these are driven around electrical and contracting. And I think you may have seen stuff in the media around like, hey, if you've got a friend in high school who maybe is not set to go to college but like could enter the trades, like they should become an electrician ASAP, like tomorrow. And we should be encouraging that like crazy because there's like an urgent shortage, especially driven by the fact that all of these things are subsidized really handily by the IRA, which is super great. And so basically what's going to happen is we need to make sure that, like, a typical stove install is like you will need to run a new circuit from your panel, which is maybe like anywhere from $500 to $1,500. You may need to upgrade your panel, especially if you're in like an old Victorian in San Francisco like I am. And then you may have to wait for 18 months for like Pacific Gas and Electric to go and upgrade the electrical service to your house to give you the 200 amp service or more that you might need to run multiple electrified appliances. And that also can cost like $10,000. It's not something they're gonna do for free for you. So the veto points and like structural barriers to electrification are massive and huge, even after you convince people that, hey, I want this awesome product.
Okay, so
And the point is, and then going back to the solution, we don't have any of those barriers, if that makes any sense.
so you don't have that barrier. That's the barrier for if you're doing it before.
If you're going to buy like a Bosch product or something like that, and you went to Best Buy,
what are the barriers for your product? Just
it's more like, do you want this thing? Are you remodeling your kitchen? Can you
Here we go. That's amazing.
you can just plug it in. Basically, you can just plug this into a 120 volt outlet. If you've got 240 volts in your kitchen, you can wire it as is. There's no like it installs like the stove that's already in your kitchen. Basically, is the point.
That's amazing. So wonderful. Both of you. This is just really. I'm thrilled that I get this opportunity to speak with you and share these products. And Jane, a little bit more about the heating and cooling system. And are you with regards to Harvest? Are you fundraising right now?
Yeah, we're currently raising our Series A. Yay! We have sold 200 units. We have ecstatic customers. They really, really like it. We have contractors deploying our systems. Right now, as we're sitting here, they're out in the field deploying our system, and they're coming back again and again because they like the product. They make good money out of it. We've installed with KB Home. We're training our first distributor. So this is really ratcheting up. And right now, it's all about, product is proven, product's protected, it's manufactured, it's de-risked, it's certified. So it's all about putting our foot not on the gas, on the accelerator, and then really ramping it up to the thousands and beyond, and really, turning that duck curve on its back as it needs to be. Amazing. So yeah, if you're out here and you can how can they get one of your products if they're looking to? Yeah, absolutely. So if you live in California, go on our website, get quote, and we have contractors, and we can put you in touch with a contractor trained in our system. Beyond California, we already have some installations, but in more restricted areas, we're beginning to work with distributors to expand it. If you are outside California, let us know, because that's where we're going to expand, where we get the most people. But right now, we're taking orders every day and shipping product every day. Amazing. All right.
And for us, you can order our product on our website, and it will be shipping in Q4, and that is nationally. And the goal for the installation is you will get 2 boxes, and you stack the battery. You stack the stove stack the battery into the stove, and it installs like a normal stove. So.
Awesome. I feel a little bit like the old school TV antennas right now, trying to not get this to pop. But
we need to go to digital. We need to go from analog to digital.
So I guess my last question to both of you, and we've heard about your products, but in general, obviously ordering your products will help reduce this duck curve. But what can people here watching at home do to smash their own duck curves?
Switch off gas. Get heat pumps, get storage, and that's really what you can do to smash your gas curve. That's 2/3 of the energy use of your house, so that is a really, really big deal.
All right.
Go for it, Sam.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing. It's like energy storage, and there's multiple ways to roll energy storage, both thermal and electrochemical. Energy storage is what's needed to do this, and honestly, it's not just us on stage, but a number of other companies in the Bay Area working on this problem. But the big point is making storage easy to install and ubiquitous is going to solve the duck curve fundamentally.
And maybe I can add to that. I mean, it's all about, first of all, if your gas furnace is about to die, or if your gas stove is about to die, please, please, please don't put another gas appliance in. It's going to stay there for a long time, so let's not do that. And then it's about getting the word out, right? You guys all know now we can beat the duck curve. let other people know, because the solutions exist. And it's about now getting the word out about Impulse, about Harvest, about others, because we can do this. So we just need to grow.
That's amazing. I think that deserves the biggest round of applause. Thank you for creating the solutions. That's what Climate Week is about. Sam, Jane, any last remarks? Because y'all pretty much kind of hit the nail on the head as far.
I would just say thank you, Hunter,
All
for
right.
giving visibility to this. Appreciate it.
I really appreciate you hosting and emceeing this, and it's going to be a fun rest of the afternoon as well. So a lot of exciting speakers following us as well.
Awesome. Well done. It was a blast. And go get these wonderful products. Thank you all so much.